Hello everybody! My name is Rachel and welcome to my channel Kalanati. Today I'm going to talk about 2312 by Kim Stanley Robinson. This is a hard science fiction novel published in 2012 and it won the Nebula Award. I'm pretty sure that 2312 is set in the same universe as Robinson's Mars Trilogy, but I noticed some discrepancies in timelines, specific events, and especially terraforming techniques on Mars that did not match what I recalled from the Mars books. So even if it's not exactly the same universe, it is incredibly similar, and if you've read the Mars Trilogy, you will recognize a lot of the broader scale things and events that he imagined, particularly the terraforming techniques on Mars, the asteroids, moons, and other planets. 2312 is primarily about a woman named Swan who lives on Mercury. Her grandmother was the Lion of Mercury, a very influential person, and when she dies, Swan discovers that she was involved in some secret projects spanning the solar system that the people only met in person. They didn't trust their quantum computing cubes or other things that might be recorded. So Swan gets pulled into this secret project of what they're investigating, and then there are some mysterious attacks that Swan almost dies in, and the main mystery is what is causing these attacks, and there are these advances in quantum computing that they are very concerned about. Other than this central mystery, this book actually covers a lot of other topics in its info dumping and world building. Many parts of it are about the mechanics of terraforming, how Mars was terraformed, all the other planets, Venus, Mercury, Jupiter, Saturn, all of the moons, and tens of thousands of asteroids, and how this is done in each particular case. The physiological changes happening to humans who are living in space and who are also trying to live longer with longevity treatments and changing their bodies so that they will live longer. Changes in biological sex, in like gender identities, and the ramifications of that for relationships and marriages and polygamous marriages and such. And one of the major tensions in the book is between people on Earth and spacers. People in space really embrace terraforming. They are drastically, radically modifying their environments to be livable for human beings. But Earth is suffering from climate problems. They're being inundated by rising ocean levels to the point where they've lost many of their largest cities underwater, their beaches and their coastlines, and it's only going to get worse. But people on Earth refuse to implement terraforming practices to save their world or revert some of these changes. And the people in space are like, why are you doing this? We want to save Earth, we want to help you, but you won't let us help you and you hate us because we're not helping you. Nobody can win. As you can tell, there's a lot going on, and actually the structure and the ratio of info dumping to plot reminded me very much of Stand on Zanzibar by John Brunner, probably because I read it relatively recently, and the structure of that was very new and like revolutionary at the time that it was published. So when I'm reading this kind of experimental stuff by Robinson, I feel like he's almost doing the same thing that Brunner did. There are specific sections solely devoted to info dumping, the lists and extracts sections, and I think there's some called quantum walks. And the plot, your POV characters, where the story is actually advanced, are only in these like continuity chapters. But the info dumping does inform the action, and you have to read some of it at least to understand what's really happening in the plot. Problem is that the info dumping stuff is very experimental writing. The sections called lists are literally just lists of things. They're Swan's lists. I don't really mind large sections of info dumping and world building in hard science fiction novels or in other novels, to be really honest, but it just didn't work here. It felt like the balance was really off, probably because I think that the central mystery was off stage far too much, and the two characters that most of the story is told through aren't interesting enough. So the mix wasn't quite right. The story ping-pongs the characters from planet to moon to asteroid to Terraria and then back again, so there's this dizzying array of locations, and that's where a lot of the terraforming details come in, which is cool because it's like you're getting this really big grand tour of the solar system that's fully colonized and terraformed, and it's magnificent. It's this huge grand scale that Robinson really pulls off. I really admire that about the book because I think that he got the scale right and the detail right. It feels real. But then the story is also ping-ponging between characters' tangents, side stories, personal adventures, and very rarely coming back to the actual mystery, the attacks, and really digging into them. And the main character is probably my big problem here. I did not like Swan. I actively hated her at times. She was abrasive, unpredictable, not trustworthy in any way. She blatantly breaks her promises multiple times in the book. She seems almost abusive to other characters and just inherently untrustworthy. I could not like her. The other thing that I want to mention about the writing style, which kind of irritated me in this, because I'm comparing it so much to the Mars Trilogy, is Robinson does this thing frequently where he just brings the plot to a grinding, screeching halt so he can go on like 4 pages of extremely detailed description about something, usually about the landscape, the science, the biology, the geology, the history of something, all the little plants and things. And it happens a lot here. And I didn't like it because it didn't serve the story. It happens so much in the Mars Trilogy, but it works because those passages aren't just description, they are conveying something else. Particularly, I'll mention the Sax passages in the Mars Trilogy. There's one instance where Sax goes out on Mars and he's seeing the first effects of the terraforming, and he's looking closely and seeing the lichens and the fell field flowers, and it just sort of hits him that he has caused these things, that it's beautiful, they have achieved something, and then it feeds back to him as causation for what he's going to do next. So it's those descriptive passages, they're so detailed, aren't just description. They are part of the plot and part of character development in particular. But the description in here doesn't, I think, really serve to develop the characters or to really motivate the plot the way that the descriptions in Mars did. I feel it's very weird to say that a descriptive section talking about a landscape would drive a plot, but it's all about the character viewing it and acting on it in some way, rather than just the reader or the author viewing it and going, this is part of the scenery. It becomes more than just the scenery. I don't know why it didn't work that way in this. It just didn't. I know I'm sounding super negative about this book, but I actually think it is okay and it is worth reading. I think Robinson is really good at writing hard science fiction, at making the scientific details interesting, and he writes it on a pretty high advanced level. In fact, I recommend reading his stuff on ebook so that you can look up his very $10 words and esoteric terms with the dictionary function. It's important, but he is going to use the super exact specific word that you don't know rather than dumbing it down. I think that 2312 is actually quite readable as long as you're able to look up some of the vocabulary terms when you need to. It's quite quick to read. Unlike the Mars Trilogy in some places, it doesn't have that same dense political feel as the Mars Trilogy. It's like Mars Trilogy light. Anyway, that was very rambling, and I'm not sure that I have a point. It's 2312. I thought it was okay. I would recommend it to people who really enjoy Kim Stanley Robinson's work, though I'm not sure I would recommend it as the first thing to read by him. I would recommend Aurora or the Mars Trilogy, which I think are stronger. So that's it for this book. Thank you very much for watching, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye.